decision was ultimately delivered in favor of Hindus only because of faith, as opposed to the fact that the decision runs into at least 3,000 pages, most of which is based on archaeological evidence, most of which is based on expert testimony, most of which is based on historical sources. Why is this important? Because thanks to the power of narrative and thanks to the fact that some of these people act as gatekeepers of media and whatnot, they have successfully managed to push the argument that because 2 people out of the 3 judges were Hindus, therefore the decision of the Allahabad High Court was entirely based on faith, as opposed to the actual evidence which the judges considered for years together. This is the power of narrative, and this is the power of having an intellectual ecosystem at your disposal. Why is this important? Facts entirely go to the dustbin and narrative takes over the moment you have an ecosystem which is capable of reaching out to the public. How many of you who have actually read or let's say have heard of the Ram Janma case have managed to pick up the judgment and read it? It's publicly available, anybody can read it. Instead, we choose to go with information that is given to us through the media. And the media has managed to convince us that as far as this judgment is concerned, it was based entirely on faith. We have not even asked this commonsensical question. At the end of the day, it's a court of law. How can a court of law come out with a verdict on facts and law based entirely on faith without evidence to support its conclusions? This defies logic, doesn't it? If the judgment is fundamentally based only on faith and does not have any basis or foundation in facts or in evidence and or law, how is it that it has been passed in the first place by a court of law? Then the judgment is fundamentally ridiculous is the conclusion that you have to come out with, which is not the case. Because if it was that ridiculous, the Supreme Court would have reversed it. All this shows what? Today, we whine, we gripe, and we constantly complain about the lack of an ecosystem, using all sorts of excuses available to us, saying we don't have the material resources. Although there is a certain dispensation in power today, it has not committed those resources to patronizing a certain intellectual ecosystem. But the fact of the matter is this: any support that comes from the state can only encourage an existing talent pool. Where is the talent pool that we have created today? The state cannot create talent. The state can only encourage talent. The state can only act as a force multiplier as far as an existing talent pool is concerned. How many of us have taken serious interest in Indology, in coming out with textbooks which are not written by foreigners as far as our history is concerned? Why is it that every major textbook and every major commentary on Indic studies comes from people who are not from Indian institutions and who are not of Indian origin? Because we have entirely abandoned it. One of the fundamental reasons that we find ourselves in the situation is we have lost the battle as far as humanities is concerned. We are so hell-bent on churning out engineers and medical professionals and people of all sorts of views except in the humanities side. You have allowed humanities to be taken over by someone with a vested interest without realizing that humanities constantly affects your life on a daily basis. If you're watching television, if you're watching a news channel, or if you're reading a history textbook, or if you're reading something related to literature, each of these things relate to humanities. If you look at people from our side today, so-called Indic side, who are focusing on humanities, we have done it only on a part-time voluntary basis. And then after the age of 50, after having earned all the wealth that we can, we then decide that I need to dedicate my life to this particular side, and then I start becoming an expert on history, on Sanskrit and whatnot. Compare that with the other side, and you have the answer crystal clear right in front of you as to why we are where we are today.